they all share the same secret. And the secret starts with, I'm not so sure I'm in the right job. And the reason underneath it is the part they're afraid to admit is, I'm really disappointed by the people on my team.
Most organizations think they have a sales problem. What they actually have is a leadership problem. They take their best rep, hand them a team, and assume the performance follows. Well, it doesn't. And by the time they figure that out, they've already lost the manager, the team, and sometimes customers. I'm Dr. Gary, and this is Leading from the Front. Lauren Bailey has spent over 3 decades building programs around a problem she lived firsthand. What happens when you put a great performer in a leadership role without actually developing them as a leader? As the founder of Factor 8 and #Girls Club, she has worked with organizations like SAP, Google, and Microsoft, and has helped thousands of managers close the gap between being good at the job and being good at leading people. In this episode, we use her experience to get into what this transition actually demands, where organizations keep getting it wrong, and what it really takes to build a leader who sticks. So Lauren, diving right in, I think we have some parallels in our careers. My first sales leadership position was to a transportation company. I was hired because I was talking to the CEO and the vice president of operations about leadership, and they liked what I was saying. So we grew their company from 78 to 93 million in 6 months. So that's the good news. The bad news is the CEO was a complete wacko and I got fired. Okay. So I went on to do some other things. I was in my own business, wasn't very successful at it, but I learned some things about what I needed to do to grow the business and do what I do today.
Right.
I did go into some other opportunities. The very first one was I was hired by a technology company for some friends of mine because I'd failed in my company and I needed a job. So I became a salesperson. Never did sales. They had promoted their best salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So segue to Lauren on the work that you've been doing, right? Because here's what happened. 6 months into it, this guy was a complete failure. So they took him from sales manager to vice president of business development and then made me the sales manager. All right. And then we grew the company.
So they promoted him again.
They promoted him again because they didn't know what else to do with him. Right?
Yeah, there we go.
He had been part of the family since startup. It was a 10-year company. They didn't want to let him go, which is fine. You know, what have you seen are the biggest reasons why sales managers fail?
Well, you're right that it happens often. Let's start with that. CEB says it's a 50 to 60% fail rate for new managers in revenue. Yeah. And it's because we all promote the top rep. And it's not because leaders everywhere have amnesia or, cotton in their ears. It's because the reps want to. And we think we're rewarding them. And gosh, they sure know the product. And if we could have 10 of him, ooh, wouldn't that be great? So it's a natural fail, right? It's a trap we all fall into. So the biggest reasons they fail, I'm going to tell you, is that because they were so good at selling, the natural behaviors, personality profile, habits that they produce to be successful are at odds with the new job. So you literally have to unlearn some things and move in a new direction to be successful as a frontline manager. And I'll give you an example or two, and then I'll turn it over to you because I bet you have 20. But one of them is this competitive drive. The best sales reps are all about the W, right? Let's win the deal. Let's win the deal. Let's win the deal. Success is measured differently as a manager. You don't get the W's anymore. You have to love watching your team win more than you winning to consider getting into management. And let that be the cautionary tale, right? If you're not more excited about somebody you're mentoring winning President's Club over you, then you're in the wrong job. So that's at odds, right? So the me.
So the motivation is completely different. Yeah.
The
reward is completely different. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The competitive nature, not going to work very well, right? Because it needs to be about them and not about me. So the other reason that comes into play often, same root cause, the number one worst skill that new managers possess is coaching. The skill coaching, the call coaching, the feedback loops, the encouragement, all those things that are supposed to happen in coaching. Everybody knows it, right? And I used to, Gary, I've been training managers for 30 years, and it used to be like a 2-hour class. Now it's a 3 to 4 part series. It takes that long to unlearn, relearn, and shake it
It
out.
takes a year. It takes a year. And it's not
It
just the
really
training,
does.
right? It's the experience and development and application over time.
Well, and that's the thing. And so what winds up happening is new managers coach the deal. Of course they do. It's all about winning the deals. We have to coach the person, their development and the relationship. And if you're so driven to win the deals, then the quick solution is use call recordings instead. Quit attending live, quit coaching active deals, because all you're going to focus on is how to win it. And it's going to be how you would have won it, which is not how, right? Because
So you just said something that's a real key here that I think is where the real challenge is for the promoted best salesperson is they were successful. They had a way of doing it and they want everybody to do it their way. Do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. And a lot of
some of them write out scripts. Here's what to say. Yeah.
There you go.
We catalog the 6 coachastrophes of sales manager coaching. And number one
Coachastrophes.
is,
We got to write that one down. I like that.
Yeah. But it's just so common and it's just too funny not to use. But number one is be like me, right? I'm kind of a big deal. Do it like I did it.
Yes.
Right. And let me tell you stories of the glory days.
And I was successful. So I know how to do this. So just do it this way.
Also, yes, +1, sales is a confidence sport. And there's no better way to crush someone's confidence than say, you're doing it all wrong.
Yes.
So here's the way you're supposed to do it. And let's go back to this one more time of human nature. The very top reps, and I mean your top 5-10%, for them, it's an art, not a science. They don't know how they're doing it. They're just doing it, right? Which makes it impossible for them to teach it.
I will be honest with you, Lauren. I hated selling.
Yeah.
Hated it.
Too.
Okay. However, I loved sales leadership. I was working for a technology company, a software company, and I was in sales. And I was there about 3 or 4 weeks. And it was this really high-end application that works with SAP, the ERP systems. And I sold about...
I've worked at SAP. I know those all too well.
A $350,000 to $400,000 contract within the first month I was there. This was a $2.5 million company. And I just sold like 20% of their annual revenue in a few weeks. I got lucky. It worked. Okay, great. So one of the inside salespeople came to me and she said, I've been watching you. Can you help me? And I said, what's going on? She said, well, I've been here like 7 or 8 months. I haven't really been able to sell anything. And I think they're going to fire me. And I'm like, well, that sucks. So let's sit down and figure some things out. So I sat down with her and I started to coach her and work with her for about 2 weeks. Okay. So about 11 or 12 working days into this relationship, she comes running over to my cubicle and she goes, I sold a $10,000 deal. I finally sold a deal. And she got all excited and we're giving high fives and we're like going crazy and everything. And I'm like, I was more excited about that $10,000 than the $200 or the $350,000 to $400,000 deal I sold to Intel.
And there's your sign.
And there it is.
Yeah. So if you're not sure if you want to get into sales management, go mentor someone like you did, Dr. Gary, and see how that feels. And even if it's what it pops up on your calendar, if you're like, ugh, I don't have time for this right now. I'm behind. I have to do something else. Right? That's your sign. Like, versus, oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. And I'm going to stay in touch with him forever. We're not all wired that way. So
no, we're not. And I think the other part of it, it's the success of delayed gratification. I had a salesperson and she wanted to make more money and she could do that by moving into a different sales position.
Yeah.
And worked with her for like 7, 8, 9 months. And she wasn't hitting anything near her quota. Nothing. But she had this huge pipeline. Huge. Had absolute faith in her. Worked with her. And in months 9, 10, and 11 of the year, she just blew it out of the water and exceeded her annual target in those few months. And I think that is a great understanding as a sales leader, how you're constantly sowing seeds. You're constantly, like you said, coaching, asking questions, adjusting, helping them find their style. How have you been able to bring that out in people is, going from sales to management? How do you do that?
The short answer is you make space for it. And before starting Factor 8, my first company that does sales manager and rep training, I was traveling the world training sales managers on behalf of SAP and prior to that, IBM. And once you built trust with these folks, right, that have been in this position for, 1 month to 3 years, they all share the same secret. And the secret starts with, I'm not so sure I'm in the right job. And the reason underneath it is the part they're afraid to admit. is I'm really disappointed by the people on my team. So there's a reason they rose to the top. They were go-getters. They were on fire. They were top performers. They cared so much. And now they're leading a team of 8 to 15 people who markedly care less than they did. Some of them, not at all. And that is so hard for an overachiever, proactive, hardwired for success leader to grapple with. And so I think that's the first moment of they're not all like me. If I don't help them succeed, I can't be successful. So the motivation comes first, right? You keep clearing out the people on your team who aren't like you. You're not going to hit quota because we make quota every month on the backs of our B players, not the 2 or 3 superstars, right?
It's the average,
the middle that gets you there, right? So that's where it starts. Now I see it because it's their first time having a downward, outward view. It used to just be about me and my business and my customers and my paycheck. And now I get to really see inside other people's motivations and behaviors. And that is eye-opening for folks.
So I have to share with you this. So I go to CEOs and they say, I can increase your probability of success by understanding that only 30% of the people have the innate skills to be leading and supervising. Only 30%. So what we want to do is try to identify that 30%. And we put those names in a hat and we pull the name out. And that's the person you promote. They don't like that idea, by the way.
I'm sure that's not fun. Yeah, I'm sure it's hilarious afterwards. Yeah.
But it actually is more successful, but they don't want to do that. Here's how I define coaching. First of all, it's the ability to ask questions, right? And secondly, it's the ability to have a high level of emotional intelligence. Now, there's product knowledge and marketing and finance and selling profitable products. All that stuff has to be there. But the interaction and building trust in training, developing the manager and the salespeople is emotional intelligence. That's what coaching is. At least that's what I've defined it. How do you define it?
Well, I think that's the DNA of the coach for sure. But I think one of the reasons that we struggle to dramatically increase coaching competence across the board is that we all have different definitions. I get more tactical for sales managers in specific. Coaching is defined by one, execution of a sales call is present. We have both listened to it, done it together, ridden along, whatever it may be. 2, I am giving feedback on the execution of skills during that moment. And the feedback is not general feedback that a team of 5 can take. It is personalized feedback based on the execution. And then what we'll weave in there is that it is based in questions. It leaves the rep feeling positive. And we ensure that happens by building guardrails around the process, saying you get to pick one thing they're going to work on. The rep should be the one to pick it. And your job is to give 3 attaboys. It's a framework that makes any interaction a little better, a little more interactive, a little more service nature and coaching nature. The tendency is to give someone 5 things to work on and never talk about them again versus one thing to work on and talk about it 5 more times.
I love it. I love it. Our leadership programs always end a training session with writing down one commitment that they're going to work on for the next 30 days.
Just
one. It's the same.
Like Curly says in City Slickers, it's one thing.
One thing. Yeah, we use that video. I'll bet you do too. And I think that we get conditioned when we're younger, because I've got these 5 courses I'm taking in high school, and I've got to get A's in all of them or B's in all of them. So we get conditioned to think that that's how we have to think. And it doesn't work that way.
Well, it certainly doesn't for adults, right? So there's adult learning and pedagogy, childhood learning. And learning that happens all the way through college is just horrific quality learning. Mm-hmm. It just is. And the system was built, I may be pulling this out of where, but I'm pretty sure it was built like by the Rockefellers in the industrial area to create industry workers. What we're dealing with in corporate America isn't learning as much as it is changing human behavior. And that ain't easy, right? Mm-hmm. Like you try writing with your left hand or driving a different way to work or creating some new habit or getting
uncomfortable.
Right.
It's so comfortable.
You got to do one thing and then you got to throw the kitchen sink at it. I'm working with a group that has 10,000 locations across the East Coast, and they're field or retail based. And they've realized that retail's dying And if we want to get people in the door, we need to be picking up the phones and driving traffic. Let's call our customer base and get them in the door. But guess what? Nobody's picking up the phone. So they've hired me to do a 30-minute keynote at their annual meeting to get everybody to start picking up the phone. And I had to, meeting one, what a way to close somebody was, this isn't going to work. If you really want to drive human performance improvement and behavior change, you got to tell them why. And you have to set the expectations, right? That's the leader's job. Then you've got to teach them how to do it. And teaching is not a video or a keynote. It's hands-on. It's using it. It's practicing it, right? You got to facilitate something. I'm so sick of training videos. They're useless. So you got to tell them why and get the buy-in. Then you got to train them on what it is. You got to set expectations, and this has got to then be tied to either compensation or reward and recognition. You got to make sure the systems out there aren't pushing them to do something else, right? And then you got to give them ongoing feedback, and you've got to work on the accountability of applying that skill. So when we do training with managers, we don't do the standard, here's 2 days of training. It's 1 skill a month, and you keep reinforcing it, and the manager keeps asking about it, right? And you give them the tools to make it easy to fit into their lifestyles. But resistance is futile is how you have to go about this. You got to throw the whole kitchen sink at it and give it time to make a change. And that's the key.
You said you've been doing this for 30 years, right? I've been studying leadership since I was 16. I'm not going to tell how many years that's been. But so my question is this: how has your model and your approach to this changed over the years? What have you, when you started it and you said, you got this problem, right? We keep promoting the wrong person. So you see a problem and you develop a company around that. How has it evolved?
Exactly. Great question. It's evolved by me getting more pieces and parts of the kitchen sink, right? My model when I first started was, here's a training of what good looks like. Now, I knew better than to do videos because I'm a learning snob and a psych and a leadership major. And I understood that people learn in different ways than we think they do and how we've been treated growing up. But it was, hey, we're going to do the training class and good luck, right? And then it was, all right, we're going to do the training class and then we're going to go tell your leaders how to follow up and good luck. Then we're going to check in one. Anyway, now I've got a tool set. Let's say that you're training, your managers are training reps. I'm trying to get them to handle objections or whatnot. The manager takes a pre-training on how to keep it alive. The manager comes to the training with the rep. The manager now has a tool set to use in the huddles, in the coachings, in the this and that to make it easy. You got to make it fast and easy for busy managers to keep that skill alive and refresh it, right? Now they're executing their plan from the pre-training. Oh, I'm going to run a contest. I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. Then we check in 2 weeks and we celebrate the people applying, right? We calibrate skills as we're listening to them, all of the right now we check in at the end of the month. How are we doing? Did we move the needle? So it went from an event to a systematic implementation process. And that's the key.
Yeah. Our leadership programs are all 6 to 9 to 12 months. You're developing leadership. We say we don't train leaders, we develop leaders. So you do the same thing.
I just think it's crazy that you and I are small fish in a huge pond of brand names, right? Companies that sell books in airports. And it's well-known stuff and it's good research and ideas, but the implementation itself is criminal. Yeah. A lot of money gets wasted.
The company I started with 17 years ago, Baker Roofing Company, we're going into our 13th leadership development. Every year we do a leadership development program. They have 25 or 27 branches now. Every single one of those branches are led by people that have been through the program. So they've created this expectation that if you want to be a leader in this company, you have to go through this program. And they've grown like crazy. They just changed to an ESOP. They were a family hub business. All kinds of great stuff. And I have had the great pleasure and honor to work with them for 17 years. But anyway, I have a question for you. Let's say I'm a new sales manager. And other than saying, call Lauren, which really was what they should do, what would you recommend are the steps for them to take in the first 90 to 180 days that they've got that promotion? What should they do?
You bet. Yeah. Well, I think you start with the listening tour and you're meeting with your people and you're getting to know your people and figuring out what drives them, what their goals are, how you're going to create an environment that motivates them. You're uncovering where their skill gaps are and how you can develop them. You're finding out what their expectations are. How can I serve you? right? Is it just get the hell out of my way? Is it check in with me? Like, what are they going to need from me? And you're creating that curated path. I think the second most important thing is then to develop their cadence. Every organization in the world, funnily enough, this was my post today on LinkedIn, has a sales process. None have a sales management process. We need one too. So we call it the management cadence. It's one of the first things that we train, and it is creating an organized schedule and calendar of interactions with your people that are themed and focused. So I'm going to do performance one-on-ones every month for 30 minutes in the first week of the month. I'm going to do a pipeline meeting with the group once a week. I'm going to do a coaching. Now that one I say is dependent on where they are, but here's how often and here's how long it's going to last, what it's going to look like. And you set up your calendar, okay? Now, when that doesn't happen, managers spend all day playing whack-a-mole, the squeaky wheel, right? And believe me, there's a lot of wheels. So everybody, I want to tell you about this call I had because top reps need to be pet like puppies. I want to have this question. Somebody ate my lunch out of the fridge. You just become the help desk. You take a number. And new managers think that's their job because we are insecure and we're proving ourselves. I can save the day. And it's crap. And it winds up making very long hours, leaving no room for proactivity or strategy or the opportunity to deliver the insights and gifts that made you great. You're just a help desk. So when we create a cadence, step one is creating the calendar that fits. But after that comes a lot of practice saying no and building those boundaries. So Jennifer comes up to tell you about the great call. Jennifer, this sounds pretty exciting. I want you to bring it to tomorrow's huddle, right? Why don't you go grab the recording and we'll talk about this in our coaching one-on-one. Here's my favorite. I have 30 seconds right now, or we can talk about this for 5 minutes when we meet in our call coaching session. Which do you prefer? Right. So it's the ability to say no and to push back. Yeah. And that is a life changer. People get home to see their wives and husbands and children on time. They create space in their day. Sales reps are like water. They will always go the path of least resistance.
Absolutely.
And when you stand there with a bucket, you kind of own the fact that you're working 14 hours a day. So I think that's the first most critical thing to build after you get to know your team. And that'll take you to day 90.
I like the fact that you said meeting cadence because I was in the Army and we do like a cadence. Okay. So yes, we do. I do like that. Talking to some other leaders and developers like yourself, they talk about the need to have this kind of a cadence. And here's the downside is people get bored. They get bored or tired with the cadence. And as soon as they start to push meetings off, not have the meetings, miss that is when things start to go downhill. Yeah. The sales manager must have the discipline to hold everybody accountable to have those meetings at least 3 out of 4 times.
I agree because listen, having the meeting on the calendar and not showing up for it is 10 times worse for your morale, engagement, and attrition than not having it at all. So when you get bored, here's an idea. That's your opportunity to get creative. Sure, it's the same old huddle that happens on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings for 15 minutes, but what are you bringing that's new? And it's a sign that you're competent, comfortable, right? Maybe a little overconfident in your current position, and it's time to develop yourself. So A, challenge yourself to go next level, but B, it's time to start pulling in the team.
What do you think about this theory? Because this has always been my theory about who do we promote, right? And I'm a strong proponent of promoting from the inside. Look for the mediocre salesperson, all right? They're kind of in the middle of the pack, right? Yep. They're pretty good, all right? Yeah. They're never going to be great. But they might be close to quota or maybe 80 or 90% of it, doing pretty well. They understand marketing and sales for the company. They're kind of into that. And you watch them interact with the other salespeople and you find out that they're actually contributing because they have a service mentality. They have a coaching mindset. They're willing to, people go to them and ask them these questions. So their time is being used up by the other sales reps who that sales rep is helping, right? And they walk in the room as the new sales manager and this is what they say. I don't know why they promoted me. How do you guys want to do this?
Isn't that better? Yeah.
Totally.
Better. I agree. That's what I built a career out of finding the B reps. And then later when I ran enablement teams, I pulled the same B reps Because again, your A+ reps, it's an art, not a science. They can't teach it. And so, but you can't go down to the C's because they also have to have the respect. The hardest part about managing is managing your former team. And so, right, you're bottom of the barrel and now you're the manager, you're going to get crushed.
I want to talk a little about your hashtag Girls Club. You've got two of these kind of approaches to life where you said, we see a need here, we see a need here, and what's going on. And
I got three.
You've got three. Oh, okay. You've got a third one. All right.
It is. It's like every time I look back at a period of my life where I was like, oof, that was painful. There's a big gap. Then I wind up creating a company for every.
So here's the research. Okay. And I don't need to tell you this, but I'm telling it so that our listeners know and understand the research. And it's like, why is it that women aren't taking these leadership positions as often when it's offered even sometimes? Because there's a socialization, and they've done a bunch of studies on this with women, that when I offer it to a man, the man's like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Let's jump into this. This is great. Fantastic. I've got this.
Lucky to have
could be completely incompetent, right? But the competent woman is sitting there going, I'm not really sure I can do this.
I've never done this before.
Like,
I've never led people.
But people see all the talent. So tell me, first of all, how did you observe it? What caused you to start that? And what are you doing with it?
So here we go. Rapid fire. It was 8 years ago. I was asked at a conference for the third year in a row, why aren't there more women on stages with you? It was the same damn conversation every year, Barry, and it was frustrating me. And I thought, I'm going to do something about this. I'm not the friend you called a bitch. I'm the friend you called fix. And I had the privilege of training thousands of frontline, mostly male sales managers around the world. And even when they were at year 3, they didn't know what they were doing. And so I would see these underconfident women waiting and sitting on their hands instead of raising them. And I identified this is a confidence gap, right? And HP's the one who did that study. A man applies if he has 6 out of 10. A woman waits until she has 10 out of 10. And I thought, here's how we solved it. If I can do confidence building with these women, because I knew I needed it coming up, I was a mess, I'm going to get more women to raise their hands. And by the way,
how do you build confidence? How is confidence built?
We throw the kitchen sink at this as well. It can be learned. Our brains are hardwired for fake news. Perfectionism is more prevalent in women than men. The area of the brain that houses it is bigger for women than men. Women release cortisol when they organize things. Men do not. Every woman will tell you when she gets stressed out, she cleans or attacks her Tupperware drawer. It's weird, but it makes us feel better. And so we're wired differently. So the first thing you do is surround them in a community of other women who are ambitious and want more, but haven't seen it anywhere else. I felt like a weirdo because I wanted more. And I wanted to move up the ladder. I was socialized that, I should just sit there, be pretty, and be quiet, which is crap, right? So you surround them with these other powerful women and you show them role models of other powerful women. That's the community angle of Girls Club. It's built like a stool. That's leg 1. Mm-hmm. Leg 2 is the competency building. Here's how you will do the job when you get into the job, and it helps there take off like rockets. Leg 3 is the confidence building, and I'll jump into that answer. How do you build it? Well, number 1, you talk about it instead of hiding it. Number 2, there's a lot of ways to do it, right? There's inspiration and there's sharing, but I had to learn out loud. I really almost didn't build Girls Club because I thought, I don't have the confidence. How am I going to teach it? I'm still working on it. And so I decided 8 years ago, I was going to learn out loud with the group. And the tool I used to do it was something we call Rise Up on Record. And it's where leaders, and me specifically, every month for 5 years, shared one of our 3 Fs: a fear, a failure, or an F up. And when you get those up and out, they stop controlling you. You slap a name tag on it, you get it up and out of your body, you say it out loud. Everybody else is like, of course, duh, I have that too. And all of a sudden, it doesn't hold you hostage anymore. Like this monster under the bed that's keeping the child frozen, right? You just
constant internal reminder that I'm not as good as I need to be. And
or the shame spirals. I can't believe I said that out loud, right? I think shame's a dirty word. And so you shine a flashlight on it, and all of a sudden, like, it's an adorable little monster, and everybody else has it, and that's okay.
It's adorable. Yeah.
And so we kind of air those things out. And I lead the way from the front, recording constant fears, failures, and fuck ups. And because of that, my confidence grew. I was so scared to say the first ones out loud, like flop sweat kind of scared. And now it's like, yep, mess that up. Yep, mess that up. And what happens then is we lower perfectionism because confidence and perfectionism cannot survive in the same room. Perfectionism sucks the air out. So
and perfectionism
that's the key.
In all ways is destructive and expensive. None of us are perfect. It's destructive and expensive. Yeah.
And somehow that is where the socialization has done the most harm, is us thinking we have to be perfect at it. And men knowing, rightly so, that that's hilarious. So more women raise their hands.
They did a bunch of research on the makeup of teams and whether those teams had different personalities, different levels of emotional intelligence, different levels of intelligence, different other characteristics. And there was only one thing on successful teams that they found that was consistent with that team and these teams. One thing. And what that one thing was, is you had a 30-70 balance, somewhere between 30 to 70% of men and women on the team. It could have been 70% women and 30% men, but you needed 30 to 40% overlap because we think differently, because we see things differently. The successful teams are the ones that have gender diversity. And it's just astounding to me. I think in a lot of ways, a lot of men are they're just afraid. They're like, with this whole thing. And
I like to give, I don't want to make them wrong. I don't think men are wrong. I think that when you are out building a team, a few things happen. One, you go to your network. I'm pretty positive that most young men's network is full of more men than women. Two, it is again a scientific psychological fact that we feel affinity towards people who are like us. Correct. It is natural. It is where bias is built. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it happens to me and it happens to you.
It's human.
We are attracted to people who look like, act like, feel like, right? Us. And so all things being equal, there you go. But the other way I'm going to give guys credit is that there are so few women raising their hands. So we have to, women need to raise their hands. And on the flip side, the credit I'm going to give or the one action I'm going to give to men who are not wrong in this, we own it together, is to go out and ask. Okay. When you have an opportunity for a stretch assignment, a delegation, whatever it is, right? A job. One, you need to post it with objective criteria because every woman on your team assumes you're going to give it to the guy that you're buddies with and they're jealous. And two, go encourage the women to speak up and apply. When we do that, she will. She sees that you have some confidence in her.
We have in our leadership program what we call a do-over, all right? So we'll teach them coaching skills. You want to coach somebody, ask them questions, give some feedback, work with them. Great.
Awesome.
And they completely screw it up. I mean, it's just, they try it,
It takes a year, like he said.
Lauren comes into my office and I'm like, okay, I've learned this new skill and I completely screw it up. So we tell them, call the person back in your office and you tell them with a little bit of, vulnerability, I'm working on this new skill and I really screwed this up yesterday. So do you mind if we start over and do it over again? Okay.
Gary, that's the best thing I've heard all year long.
Okay, here's the question for you though. When you look at your career, is there something that you would have liked to have done over that you would want to rewrite and say, gee, if I could have started this over again or done something really differently, what would that be?
Yeah. The biggest mistakes that I've made are in the very same theme. And that was not trusting my gut about people. I've had a few toxic hires and I trusted too much and waited too long. And they crushed. I mean, it took years to recover our culture. And it was a total mind game for me as well. Because, boy, they just, right? I didn't understand what gaslighting was until these folks. And right, everybody else, we were all pretending it was fine. And meanwhile being miserable. And I thought, oh, it's just me. And I would believe when they would say it was all my fault. I called a good friend of mine, a very inspiring speaker and lovely woman, Sherry Levitin. And I was talking about it with her. And I said, and she's not even using the company Zoom. She's using her own because I want to go in and listen to our meetings because I think she's bad mouthing and I think she's da-da-da-da-da. And Sherry said, LB, if you're at the stage where you want to go and check on them and spy on them, you have your answer, right? Like if you feel like you need proof to back up your gut feeling, stop right then and take action. You will have wished you did 6 months ago. That's what I wish I could go tell little one.
I love this because I can't tell you the number of times I will go in and interview an executive team and I'll go, you know, that person over there in that office, you need to get rid of that person because you can just feel I call them black holes of energy. They just suck the energy out of other people.
The energy vampires is what I
Yeah, I love it. Yes. It's like, oh no, we can't get rid of them. They're reducing all 10 people, other 10 people in this office, they're reducing their productivity by 20%. And if you get rid of them, people's energy will open up, their heart will open up, their mind, their gut. Why is it, Lauren, that people don't listen to their gut when they know they've got somebody on their team that just doesn't fit?
Well, it's a combination of self-doubt and I hate this analogy, but they say it's how you boil a frog. You put them into cold water and slowly turn it up. And so it takes bringing in an outsider like you who's got the experience and the objectivity to point it out.
If this episode made you think differently about how you're developing your leaders, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Follow Leading from the Front wherever you listen, and I'll see you in the next one.